Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Empowered Pause. I am your host, Rachel Chinoa J. Thank you for joining me on this Wednesday evening. As usual, I'll tell you a little bit about Speak Initiative before we jump into today's topic of is it permanent, personal, or perfect? Right? So, Speak Initiative is a excuse me, a nonprofit organization that was started over a year ago, and whose mission is to reduce the stigma around mental health care and suicide in our communities. SPEAK stands for Suicide Prevention Through Empowerment, Action, and Kindness. And as you can see by the banner below, you can find us on all social media platforms. The Empowered Pause is one of the programs that are just under our empowerment philosophy, and we have a number of other programs that are coming up and that we've already done, including the 90-day intensive, the Fearless Start, and our wellness sessions. So if you feel like you want more information about Speak Initiative or anything that we're doing here, you can feel free to reach out to us directly via email, via any of the social media platforms. Okay. Also, before we get started, Speak Initiative is looking for guests to actually be a part of the Empowered Pause. So if you have a story, which we all have a story, if you have experiences with mental health challenges, or either you're a speaker or a listener, you can be on either side of the coin, and you want to share your experiences or maybe your healing journey or any suggestions or ideas, or just be a part of this experience so that we can get the word out and let people know that one excuse me, one, they are not alone, and two, that there's always help out here, and Speak Initiative is one of the ways that help is available. So now that we've done the house cleaning part, last week we talked about suffering and life, and this is going to be a recurring theme probably because life is what it is, a bunch of experiences, some up, some down. Sometimes it feels like around in circles. So I was having a conversation last week with my therapist, actually. And sometimes when we're spinning out of control or we're feeling a lot or whatever the case may be, I was reminded that nothing is permanent, nothing is personal, and nothing is perfect. And that actually comes from the Buddhist belief that are the three marks of existence. So impermanence is anicca, suffering or dissatisfaction is dukkha, and not of self or not self is anatta. And these three marks actually apply to all conditioned things, right? So as I went deeper into thinking about this idea that nothing's permanent, nothing's personal, and nothing's perfect, I came across Ruth King, who is actually an author, an educator, and a meditation teacher who founded her own organization, Mindful of Race Institute. And she is a former organizational development consultant to a lot of major organizations throughout the country and throughout the world. And she now teaches mindful meditation retreats worldwide. So she actually gave a talk about um, being the idea of permanence, personal, and perfection. And I wanted to share some of the transcript with you because I think it was really, really good and it actually helped me. So I want to share some parts of it with you. Okay, so I'm just going to jump in at certain parts of the article. And actually, I will share a link to this article in the end. And if anyone wants to read this for themselves or get more information, I'll share both of the links where we have the Ruth King information and the actual article, the transcript of the article that I'm actually sharing. Okay, so this this session is basically part 3 of a month-long meditation series that Ruth King was actually doing. So this is week 3, and she entitled it "Nothing is Permanent, Personal, or Perfect," right? So She wanted to take a look at that Buddhist teachings that refers to the three marks of existence, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. And for the teaching, she actually called it nothing is personal, nothing is perfect. I mean, permanent or perfect. So she just wanted to take a look into the mantra. And here, I'm just going to jump in because it's a lot of information, but I want to read where we get the good stuff. Okay, so here we go. So much is driven by the perceptions we have, and also how those perceptions feed certain thoughts and emotions. When repeated with regularity, they become a view that we hold tightly to, one that feeds the grip of heart and mind. It's useful to look at how this happens. I'm thinking of an example, and the author is actually going to go into an example where she was in Charlottesville and she was riding in a car to the airport. They stopped at a light. The street name happened to say Barack. In our mind, that usually spells Barack. So she was excited to see that, what she thought was a street name after our president at the time was actually, she personalized it. She was proud of it. She was elated to see it. She could hardly stand on her feet. And she said to the person who was driving her, how incredible that there's a street name here named after the president. And the woman who was driving was silent for a moment. And then she said, well, in these parts, we call that Barracks Avenue, not Barack, even though it was spelled the exact same way. So it's about our perception, and that we were personalizing, that she personalized this actual moment in time, right? So she goes to say, I was so convinced that it was Barack, yet I didn't have it right. It shifted everything. So in that moment, I felt sobered to be kind of shocked out of my conviction, a conviction that was feeling good. It was pleasant. It had a vandana of pleasure associated with it. Vandana just means a feeling, a feeling. That's a Sanskrit word for feeling. It had a vandana of pleasance associated with it, but I was wrong. It wasn't Barack, it was Barracks Avenue. There are times when we just, excuse me, there are times when we can just begin to notice the shock of being awakened to those moments. But we should also not be so surprised by it. When these things happen, it's all about perception, right? It's not like it's personal. It's not like the thought I have about it being so permanent and perfect that I have to stick to it. It just doesn't work like that. There is a release. There was a release of the perception and the whole sense of the personal solidifying. The That can often happen when the perceptions that we have, we think they're personal. We think they should be perfect, or they should be the way that we like them. We think they should be permanent as well. I imagine that if I hadn't said anything to the woman who was driving me, I would have been convinced that how I saw the sign was the way I saw it, and it was to my liking. So, what's next? This practice of looking at nothing as personal, nothing as permanent, and nothing as perfect is really profound teaching. We don't have the time to go deeply into it, but we can begin by bringing the question into our practice. What am I perceiving? What am I believing to be personal? What am I believing to be perfect? What am I believing is so solid that it's going to be here forever? This is a profound relationship with one sense of wanting and not wanting. This is another way to enter into inquiry with our experiences, to relax our awareness, and to be okay about being curious about what we think we know, or curious about the perceptions that we have. This is just a sliver of truth, but it's never the absolute truth. So let's practice together. I invite you to take a posture of relaxed awareness. Invite the body to relax. Because you've been practicing with cultivating calm, maybe access to it is more readily recognizable. Open to calm and allow yourself to rest there. Also, notice the vandana of experience right now. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, neither? Take your time to open your awareness inwardly in a relaxed way. Then she goes on to say, reflect on a recent incident or situation where you felt really gripped, agitated, or irritated. Maybe it was someone close to you, or maybe it's just a recurring pattern toward yourself that you find yourself in. Maybe it was when you were watching the news, or just get an incident in your mind and see what's happening there. See the scene, play it out in your mind. Notice the Vandana, the feeling tone that's there as you observe what's happening. You can name and note. Name what's happening. Are you hurt, gripped, or angry? Then name the Vandana pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Just take a minute or so. As you touch into this recollection, allow yourself to be aware of the Vandana. As you observe what's happening, begin to invite the three questions. Do I believe this is personal? Do I believe that what's happening is happening personally addressed to me? And am I taking this personally? Again, ask the question and then notice what happens. Don't look for an answer, just ask the question. Am I taking this to be personal? Is that absolutely true? Stay connected to the body and the breath as you invite this inquiry. You may ask these questions. Am I taking this to be permanent? Do I believe this is going to be forever or always? Am I perceiving it this way? Is it absolutely true that this will be forever? Right? Again, without judgment, just curiosity. Notice what happens in the body as you take these questions. Notice what happens in your mind. Notice if there's a sense of release or opening, or maybe more tightening. Just notice it and allow it. Ask the third question. Am I believing this should be perfect the way I want it to be and to my liking? Am I believing this should be other than how it is? Just notice what it's like to believe that your experience should be other than what it is right now. And notice what that is like, right? Can you let this be? Can you let this experience be what it is? Allow it. Let go. Allow space to be with you. Take your time to just check out the scene now and notice how your heart and body feel as you revisit the situation of gripness. You may notice that things have changed because impermanence is all there is. It's everything changes. Notice how you change from just bearing witness to this inquiry. Stay aware of the body and the breath. Bring kind attention as you ask these questions. Know that nothing is personal, nothing is permanent, nothing is perfect. This is a practice, right, for Buddhists. Ruth King happens to be a Buddhist. This is something that we can drop into our daily meditation practice and inquire how we're holding our experiences. It is a way of inviting ourselves to re-examine misperception and put a bit more space around what we feel absolute about. It's a beautiful practice that supports us in lightening up and giving us a break from the grip of perception and conditioning. So ask the questions both on the cushion and when you find yourself gripped in a situation, a conflict, or whenever you feel really strongly about an opinion that you're looking at. Just back off and see how you're holding that experience. Notice if you are misperceiving by thinking it's permanent. Notice if you think it should be perfect or believe that it's personal. If you can reframe that, it can open you up to a mountain of more experiences, a deeper understanding of yourself. So that was the short talk that Ruth King shared at this meditation series. That was a few years ago now. Again, I will put the link in the comments for everyone to see if they choose so to watch the video or read the transcript yourself. But I wanted to offer those questions because these are questions I ask myself on a regular basis, but to use the practice um, to change, to help change in yourself, right? To not feel so overwhelmed and gripped and out of control and triggered when things are not the way they go, they that you should think they should go for us, right? Or for you, right? So is it permanent? Is it personal? Or is it perfect? The answer should usually be no. Nothing is permanent. Not too many things are personal. And there's no such thing as perfection. We're working towards making these things um, a part of our lives, a part of our practice. Not saying everyone has to be a Buddhist or people have to meditate every day, but meditation is actually a great tool to bring you to some peace and some calm on a regular basis. So I invite you to, again, um, visit the website that I'm going to put in the link. And again, if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Empowered Pause, if you can share your stories, share your experiences, any lessons that you may have learned. You can be a speaker or a listener. It doesn't matter what side you may be on. Experiences, all experiences we can learn from and hopefully get information to go forward and be better. So if you would like, or you know someone who would like to be a part of this, feel free to send us a message directly. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, take care.